They showed up at my doorstep after 2 months of silence, and what I did next changed everything. If you've ever felt guilty for putting yourself first in your family, this story is for you. Hit subscribe. You'll want to see how this ends. I'm Jennifer Martinez, 35 years old, marketing professional, and for most of my life, I was the person my family could always count on. The reliable one, the one who never said no, the one who dropped everything when they called. But that all changed 6 months ago, when a single phone call about my vacation plans exposed a truth I'd been avoiding for 15 years. 27% of Americans have cut off contact with at least one family member. I never thought I'd become one of them. I loved my family. I trusted them. I believed that's what family meant, showing up, sacrificing, putting them first. I was wrong. This is the story of how I went from being my family's emotional ATM to someone who finally chose herself. From doormat to boundary queen. From guilt-ridden people-pleaser to woman who sleeps peacefully at night. It wasn't easy, it wasn't clean, and it definitely wasn't what anyone expected, but it was necessary. And by the end of this story, you'll understand why sometimes the bravest thing you can do is close a door, even on the people who share your blood. Let's start with the phone call that shattered everything. Chapter 1. It was a Thursday night, 8 p.m., and I was finally relaxing after a brutal week at work. Glass of wine in hand, comfortable on my couch, planning the details of my dream vacation to Turks and Caicos, a trip I'd been saving for 6 months. Then my phone rang. Sarah, my older sister. "Jenny, I have amazing news." Her voice was that particular brand of excited that always made my stomach tighten. "We're doing a family trip to Florida the same week as your vacation." I set down my wine glass carefully. "What do you mean the same week?" "The 3rd week of June. Mom and Dad are coming, Brian and the kids, everyone. It's going to be incredible. And the best part," she paused for effect, "you can cancel Turks and Caicos and come with us. The kids are so excited to spend time with Aunt Jenny." My heart sank, not because I didn't love my nephews and niece, but because I knew exactly what this meant. "Sarah, I booked my trip 6 months ago. I saved $4,500. I already got time off approved at work." "Oh, but this is family." She said it like that explained everything. Like those 2 words erased all my planning, my anticipation, my needs. Besides, you can go to the Caribbean anytime. How often do we all get to be together? I heard my mother's voice in the background. "Is that Jennifer? Put me on." "Great." "Jenny, sweetheart." Mom's voice was warm but firm. This would mean so much to all of us, having the whole family together. You know how important family is. "I do know that, Mom, but I've had this trip planned for..." "It's just a vacation, honey. You're young, you can travel anytime. But family time, that's precious. That's what matters." There it was, the guilt, the implied selfishness. The suggestion that my plans, my time, my savings didn't matter as much as their last-minute idea. "Let me think about it," I said, knowing even then what my answer would be. "Don't think too long," Sarah chirped. "I need to book the condo soon. It sleeps 8, so it'll be perfect. And Jenny," her voice dropped conspiratorially, "it would be such a help if you could watch the kids sometimes, so Brian and I can have some alone time. You know how it is." And there it was. The real reason, not family bonding, free babysitting. I hung up 20 minutes later, after deflecting 17 variations of the same guilt trip. My hands were shaking, my chest felt tight, because this wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the 10th time. This was a pattern that had been playing out for 15 years, and I was only just beginning to see it clearly. Let me take you back. I was 20 when Sarah asked me to skip my spring break trip with college friends. She needed a babysitter for her 1-year-old. Just this once, she'd said. I canceled, watched the baby for a week. Sarah and Brian went to Cancun. I was 23 when I used money from my college fund to buy Christmas presents for the family. Mom had mentioned times were tight. Sarah had just had her second child. Dad's business was slow. I wanted to help. $2,200 on gifts. I ate ramen for 3 months. I was 25 in my first real job when Sarah called needing $2,000. Emergency, she'd said. Rent is due and Brian's paycheck was delayed. I transferred the money immediately, never got it back, never asked for it either. I was 27 when I canceled a weekend trip with my best friend Nora because there was a family BBQ that turned out to be Sarah needing a babysitter because she forgot she'd booked a spa day. I was 30 when I flew home from a business trip 2 days early, missing crucial meetings for my nephew's 7th birthday party. Sarah had cried on the phone about how disappointed he'd be if Aunt Jenny wasn't there. I was 32 when I used 15 of my vacation days to help Sarah move into her new house. Not the 1 day for the actual move, 15 days. Because she needed support during the transition. My planned trip to Seattle never happened. Lost the deposit. By 35, I'd given my family over $15,000 in loans that were never repaid. I'd canceled 17 personal plans for family emergencies that turned out to be conveniences. I'd spent hundreds of hours providing free childcare, free labor, free emotional support. And what had I gotten in return? More requests, more expectations, more guilt when I hesitated. I'd thought it was love. I'd thought it was what families did. But sitting there that Thursday night, staring at my Turks and Caicos itinerary, something finally clicked. They hadn't asked about my vacation. They'd told me to cancel it. They hadn't considered my plans. They'd dismissed them. They hadn't invited me to join them. They'd expected me to abandon my trip and provide free childcare. The pattern was suddenly, painfully clear. Financial manipulation, Sarah always forgetting to pay me back. Always having emergencies that required my money. Always knowing I wouldn't ask for repayment because that would make me the bad sister. Emotional blackmail. Family comes first. Don't you love us? I can't believe you're being so selfish. Every boundary attempt met with weaponized guilt. Information control. They planned this Florida trip without mentioning it to me until after they'd decided. I wasn't included in the planning, just expected to comply with the outcome. Isolation tactics. How many friendships had faded because I kept canceling plans? How many opportunities had I missed because I was always available for family? And the flying monkeys, whenever I showed any resistance, suddenly aunts, uncles, and cousins were calling to tell me how hurt everyone was. How I should just do what the family wanted. How I was causing unnecessary drama. I'd been trained since childhood to equate love with sacrifice, to believe that setting boundaries was selfish, to feel guilty for having needs. My therapist would later tell me this was textbook emotional neglect, that I'd been conditioned to be the family's support system while my own needs were systematically dismissed. But that night, I just felt sick. Because I'd already spent $4,500. Because I'd been dreaming about this trip for months. Because this was supposed to be my first real vacation in 3 years. And because somewhere deep inside, I knew if I canceled this time, I'd never stop canceling. I picked up my phone, opened the family text thread, stared at the cursor. My hands were shaking. I'd never said no before, not really, not firmly, but something was different this time. Maybe it was turning 35 and realizing I'd spent 15 years putting everyone else first. Maybe it was the therapy I'd started 2 months earlier. Maybe it was just exhaustion. Whatever it was, I typed, "I appreciate the invite, but I'm keeping my original plans. Hope you all have a great trip." I hit send before I could delete it, and then I waited. The response came in less than 5 minutes. "Sarah, are you serious right now? Sarah, the kids will be devastated. Sarah, I can't believe how selfish you've become." Then my phone started ringing. "Sarah." I declined. She called again, declined, again, declined. Text after text flooded in. "What happened to family first? This is so unlike you. I already told the kids you were coming. Do you know how hard it is to get everyone's schedules to align?" 15 texts in 20 minutes, each one sharper than the last. Then Mom called. Jennifer Marie Martinez, full name, never good. "What is going on?" "Mom, Your sister is in tears. The kids are confused. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof. Over a vacation?" "I planned this trip 6 months ago, Mom. And we're planning this trip now. Family should come first. You know this. I raised you better than this." "I'm not canceling my trip." Silence, then coldly. "I see. Well, I hope your vacation is worth hurting your family." She hung up. My father didn't call. His silence was its own weapon. Disappointment so profound, it didn't need words. But the real betrayal came 2 hours later, when my cousin texted me a screenshot. A group chat I wasn't in. Martinez family trip. Messages going back 2 weeks. Sarah. "Can't wait for Florida. Jenny's going to be so helpful with the kids." Mom. "It'll be good for her to spend time with family. She's been distant lately." Sarah. "I figured we'd alternate who watches the kids each day. That way Brian and I can actually relax." Mom. "Smart. Jennifer never minds helping out." They'd planned this entire trip around the assumption that I'd cancel my vacation and provide free childcare. They hadn't invited me to join them. They'd assigned me a job. I stared at those screenshots until my vision blurred. This wasn't love. This wasn't family. This was exploitation with a side of guilt. And I'd been allowing it for 15 years. Chapter 2. I didn't sleep that night. My phone wouldn't stop. Text after text, call after call. "Aunt Linda, your mom is crying. Is this really necessary?" Cousin Rachel, "Just go. It's easier than all this drama." Sarah's husband Brian, "Think of the kids, Jenny. They really look up to you." Each message was a variation of the same theme. I was wrong. I was selfish. I was hurting everyone. I should just give in. By 2 a.m., I'd received 47 messages and 17 missed calls. By morning, I felt it like I'd been hit by a truck. I called in sick to work. First time in 2 years. I needed to think. That's when I texted Nora, my best friend since college. "I need to talk." She arrived an hour later with coffee and pastries. "Tell me everything." So I did. The phone call, the expectation, the guilt. The group chat I wasn't supposed to see. Nora listened quietly. Then she said something that broke me open. Jenny, I've watched them do this to you for 10 years. Every canceled plan, every last-minute emergency, every time you apologize for having boundaries, I've been waiting for you to see it. See what? That they're using you. The words hit like ice water. They're my family. Family doesn't treat you like an ATM and a babysitter. Her voice was gentle but firm. Family doesn't guilt you for having your own life. Family doesn't assume you'll drop everything without even asking first. I wanted to argue, but I couldn't, because she was right. What do? You do nothing. You go on your vacation like you planned. You don't engage with their guilt trips. You don't explain yourself anymore. You just live your life. They'll never forgive me. Maybe, or maybe they'll finally learn to respect you. That conversation changed something in me. I made an appointment with my therapist, Dr. Chen, for that afternoon. Tell me what happened, she said. I laid it all out. The phone call, the group chat, 15 years of patterns. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. Jennifer, what you're describing is called emotional manipulation within family systems. You've been assigned a role, the helper, the reliable one, the person who sacrifices. And every time you've tried to step out of that role, you've been punished with guilt and rejection. But isn't family supposed to support each other? Support goes both ways. What you're describing is one-directional. You support them. Who supports you? I couldn't answer that. Here's what I want you to understand, Dr. Chen continued. You were trained from childhood to equate love with sacrifice, to believe that your needs are less important than keeping peace. This isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility to change it. How? Boundaries. Clear, firm, consistent boundaries, and acceptance that they might not like it. Over the next 2 weeks, I did something I'd never done before. I stopped responding, not completely, but strategically. Sarah's texts went unanswered. Mom's calls went to voicemail. Flying monkey messages got bland responses. I'm doing well, thanks for checking in. I didn't engage with the guilt, didn't defend my decision, didn't explain further. I just stopped, and something interesting happened. The messages got more desperate, more manipulative. Sarah. The kids are asking why Aunt Jenny doesn't love them anymore. Mom, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this isn't the daughter I raised. Aunt Linda. Family is forever. You'll regret this. Each message was designed to make me feel guilty enough to break. But this time, I had support. Dr. Chen helped me recognize the patterns. Nora reminded me I wasn't crazy. And I started documenting everything, every text, every voicemail, every guilt trip. I created a folder on my computer, Family Patterns. I reviewed my bank statements. $15,347 in loans to Sarah over 5 years, not $1 repaid. I went through my calendar, 17 canceled plans in 2 years, every single one for a family emergency that turned out to be a convenience. I looked at old emails, 5 vacations I'd planned that never happened because family needed something. The evidence was overwhelming. This wasn't love. This was a pattern of exploitation that I'd been enabling through my inability to say no. I also started building my support system more intentionally. Nora became my accountability partner. If you're thinking about giving in, call me first. Dr. Chen gave me scripts for boundary setting. I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me. I've made my decision. I joined an online support group for people dealing with toxic family dynamics. Reading other people's stories was validating. I wasn't alone. I wasn't crazy. And I made a decision. I was going on my vacation, as planned, alone. And I was going to enjoy every single minute. The third week of June arrived. I posted one picture on Instagram before I left. Just my suitcase and a caption. Finally prioritizing myself. No location tag, no mention of where I was going, no engagement with the inevitable comments. Then I got on the plane. For 7 days, I kept my phone on airplane mode 80% of the time. I read books on the beach. I went snorkeling. I ate expensive dinners alone and didn't feel guilty about it. I slept without anxiety. I woke up without dread. I remembered what peace felt like. On day 4, I checked my messages briefly. 73 texts, 31 missed calls. I didn't read them. I just put the phone back on airplane mode. On day 7, my last day, I posted one photo. Me on the beach at sunset. Caption. Sometimes choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. I didn't tag anyone, didn't explain, just existed in my joy. That photo got 200 likes from friends and acquaintances who'd watched me cancel plans for years. It got 0 likes from my family. When I landed back home, I finally checked my messages properly. The tone had shifted. Sarah wasn't angry anymore. She was cold. Enjoy your trip? Hope it was worth it. Mom had sent one message. Call me when you're ready to apologize. Dad, still nothing. I didn't call. For the first time in my life, I didn't rush to smooth things over. I'd spent 2 months in limited contact, responding when necessary, ignoring attacks, processing with my therapist, building my new boundaries. And then, on day 61, my doorbell rang at 7 p.m. I looked through the peephole. My entire family stood on my doorstep. Sarah, Brian, and all 3 kids, Mom and Dad. Even Aunt Linda, the ultimate flying monkey. My heart started pounding. This was it, the test. I took 3 deep breaths. Remembered what Dr. Chen said. You don't owe them access just because they show up. I opened the door but didn't step aside. I stood in the doorway, a physical boundary. We're worried about you, Mom said immediately. You haven't talked to us in 2 months. I needed space, I replied calmly. Space? Sarah's voice was sharp. We're your family. You can't just cut us off. I didn't cut you off. I set a boundary. Same thing, Sarah snapped. No, I said firmly. It's not. The kids looked confused. The adults looked angry. I felt surprisingly calm. I appreciate your concern, I continued, using the script I'd practiced with Dr. Chen. But I needed time after feeling disrespected about my vacation plans. I'm happy to talk, but not right now and not like this. Disrespected? Sarah's voice rose. How could you abandon us? Tell Aunt Jenny you miss her, Sarah said to her 9-year-old, pushing him slightly forward. That's when something crystallized for me. She was using her children as emotional weapons. I love you guys, I said to my nephews and niece, but this is a grown-up conversation. See? Sarah turned to Mom. She doesn't even care about the kids. I pulled out my phone, opened my calendar. I booked my trip 6 months in advance, I said calmly. You planned yours 3 weeks before I left. You assumed I would cancel. You didn't ask. You expected. I swiped to the screenshots. And this group chat, the one I wasn't in, where you planned for me to babysit. That's not inviting me on a family vacation. That's assigning me unpaid labor. Mom's face flushed. Sarah looked away. How did you? Sarah started. Doesn't matter, I interrupted. What matters is I will not cancel my plans for family convenience anymore. I will not be guilted for having boundaries. And I need time to decide if and how I want to reconnect. My neighbor, Mrs. Wilson, was obviously listening while watering her plants. Sarah noticed and lowered her voice. Image management. Always worried about appearances. You'll regret this, Mom said quietly. Maybe, I replied. But I won't regret choosing myself for once. We just wanted to include you, Dad finally spoke, his first words in 2 months. No, I said. You wanted to use me. There's a difference. That's not fair, Sarah began. I love you all, I said, feeling surprisingly strong. But I will no longer sacrifice my well-being for your convenience. If you can't respect that, we have nothing more to discuss tonight. Silence. Then Sarah grabbed her kids' hands. Come on, we're leaving. She shot me a look that was pure venom. Mom followed, whispering something that sounded like stubborn and ungrateful. Dad said nothing, just shook his head and turned away. Aunt Linda was the last to leave. You're making a mistake, she said. I'm making a choice, I corrected. The door closed. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From adrenaline, from power, from the realization that I'd just done something I'd never done before. I'd held my boundary, publicly, firmly, without apologizing. I texted Nora, I did it. Her response was immediate, proud of you. I sat on my couch, heart still racing, and realized something profound. That confrontation wasn't the end of my healing. It was just the beginning of my freedom. Chapter 3. The days after the doorstep confrontation were eerily quiet. No calls, no texts, no flying monkeys, just silence. At first, I kept checking my phone, expecting the onslaught to resume, but it didn't. I later learned from my cousin Mike, who'd been texting me privately, that the family group chat had exploded. You wouldn't believe the drama, he wrote. Everyone's taking sides. Some people are saying you were right. Others think you're cold. Sarah's melting down. Your mom's playing victim. It's chaos. What side are you on? I asked. Yours. I've watched them do this to you for years. I just didn't have the guts to say anything. That message meant more to me than he knew, because I was learning an important lesson. When you set boundaries with toxic people, the flying monkeys either flee or land beside you. Mike landed beside me. Can I tell you something? He texted a few days later. I went to therapy after watching your doorstep thing. My therapist asked if I had anyone in my family who was the designated helper. I immediately thought of you. Designated helper. The person the family dumps all their emotional and practical needs on. The one who's expected to sacrifice without complaint. My therapist said it's a form of scapegoating. You became the family's support system, and when you stopped performing that role, they punished you for it. I stared at that message for a long time. Designated helper, scapegoating. I'd never had language for it before, but it fit perfectly. A week after the confrontation, I met with Dr. Chen. How are you feeling? She asked. Lighter, I admitted, but also scared. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm being selfish? Tell me something. Dr. Chen leaned forward. If a friend came to you and said their family expected them to cancel a trip they'd planned for 6 months, spent thousands of dollars on, and taken time off work for just to provide free babysitting, what would you tell that friend? I'd tell them that's not okay. Exactly, but you can't extend that same compassion to yourself. Why? Because they're my family. Family is supposed to build you up, not tear you down. Family is supposed to respect you, not exploit you. And family, real, healthy family, celebrates your success and supports your boundaries. She pulled out a diagram. This is called the drama triangle. It's a model of dysfunctional relationships. There are 3 roles: victim, persecutor, and rescuer. For 15 years, you've been the rescuer. Your family plays victim. They're always in crisis, always need help. And when you don't rescue them, they become persecutors, attacking you, guilting you, punishing you. How do I get out of the triangle? You already did, by setting boundaries. Now you maintain them, consistently, even when it's hard. Dr. Chen assigned me homework. Identify my support system and strengthen those connections. So I did. Nora was obvious. She'd been my rock for years, witnessing my family dysfunction and waiting patiently for me to see it. Mike became an unexpected ally, someone who understood the family dynamics from the inside. And then there was Dr. Chen herself, professional support that gave me tools and perspective. But I also needed legal and financial support. I called a lawyer, Rebecca Thompson, who specialized in family law. I'm not looking to sue anyone, I explained. I just need to know my rights if things escalate. Smart, she said. Let me ask, do you have any documentation of the harassment? Text messages, voicemails, screenshots. Ew. Keep everything. If they show up at your house again uninvited, document it. If they contact your workplace, document it. If they escalate to stalking or threats, we can pursue a restraining order. It won't come to that, I said. Maybe not, but it's good to be prepared. I paid her $500 for a consultation and left with cease and desist letter templates and a clear understanding of harassment laws. I also met with a financial advisor, Marcus Lee. I want to make sure I'm financially independent, I told him. No more family loans, no more emergency funds that get drained. Marcus reviewed my statements. You've loaned your family over $15,000 in 5 years. Yes. Have you been repaid any of it? No. He looked at me seriously. That's not a loan. That's a gift they're calling a loan so you don't feel used. From now on, you need a separate account they don't know about. Emergency fund for actual emergencies. Your emergencies, not theirs. I opened a new account that day, started transferring money, built a wall between my finances and my family's expectations. Slowly, I was building a fortress, but the real work was emotional. During this time, I was also documenting everything. A folder on my computer labeled Family Patterns grew thick with evidence. Bank statements showing $15,000 in loans. Calendar screenshots showing 17 canceled plans. Text message proof of guilt trips and manipulation. Emails documenting my advance planning for trips that never happened. Third-party verification from Nora about incidents she'd witnessed. I wasn't planning to use this evidence, but having it made me feel less crazy, less like I was overreacting, because the evidence didn't lie. This pattern was real, and it was toxic. Then, 3 weeks after the doorstep confrontation, something unexpected happened. My Aunt Carol called. Dad's sister, someone I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. Jennifer, I heard what happened. I braced myself for another guilt trip. I want you to know something, she continued. I went no contact with your parents for 5 years. Same reason as you. They expected me to be the family caretaker for everyone, When I set boundaries, they cut me off. You did. Yes, and it was the best decision I ever made. I'm calling because I want you to know you're not crazy, you're not wrong, and you're not alone. I started crying. They'll try to break you, Carol warned. They'll escalate. They'll recruit others. They'll play victim. But if you stay strong, they'll eventually have to accept it or lose you permanently. And honestly, either outcome is better than continuing to be used. That conversation changed something in me. I wasn't the first person in this family to set boundaries. I wasn't the first person to be punished for it. And I wouldn't be the last. The family dysfunction ran deep, probably for generations. But with me, it stopped. I spent the next few weeks strengthening my boundaries, blocked the family group chat completely, set up an auto-response for certain family members. I'm not available to discuss this right now. Changed my address at work so packages couldn't be traced to me. Informed my apartment building manager, if anyone shows up claiming to be family, please call me first. Installed a Ring doorbell camera. These weren't paranoid measures, they were protective ones, because I knew from Aunt Carol's experience they would escalate before they accepted. Sure enough, 6 weeks after the confrontation, they tried again. This time at my workplace. Chapter 4. It was a Saturday in late August. My company was hosting a family picnic at a local park. A casual event with games, food, and a chance for employees to bring loved ones. I'd volunteered to help organize, planning the egg hunt for kids and managing the registration table. It was going well. I was laughing with coworkers, enjoying the sunshine, feeling genuinely happy. And then I saw them, Sarah, Brian, and all 3 kids walking across the park toward me. My heart dropped into my stomach. Jenny, Sarah's voice was loud, performative. The kids missed you so much. Her children ran toward me, clearly coached. I knelt down and hugged them. They were innocent in all this. But I immediately stood and faced Sarah. This is my workplace event, Sarah. You weren't invited. Family doesn't need invitations. Her voice carried across the park. Co-workers turned to look. Actually, I kept my voice calm and low. Boundaries do require respect. I'm asking you to leave. You're making a scene, Brian hissed. No, I replied. You are. I'm at work. This is inappropriate. Mommy, why is Aunt Jenny mad? My 9-year-old nephew asked, confused. I'm not mad, buddy, I told him gently. I just need grown-up time sometimes, like when you need alone time from your siblings. See? Sarah turned to nearby co-workers who were watching. She won't even spend time with her own nephews. My manager, Karen, approached. Is there a problem? Just family stuff, Sarah said, trying to sound reasonable. This is a private company event, Karen said firmly. I'll need to ask you to leave. Sarah's face flushed. Are you serious? Yes, this is trespassing. Security was called. My family was escorted out. As they left, Sarah shouted back, You'll regret this, Jennifer. The whole park had witnessed it. I stood there shaking, mortified. Karen put her hand on my shoulder. You okay? I'm so sorry. Don't apologize. You handled that with incredible grace. I'm sorry your family put you in that position. Later, 5 different coworkers approached me privately. My sister pulls the same crap, one said. Good for you for setting boundaries, another told me. I wish I had your strength, a third admitted. The next day, HR called me. We've documented the incident, they said. If your family returns to company property, it will be treated as trespassing. We take employee safety seriously. I was humiliated and validated all at once. Humiliated that my family drama had invaded my professional life. Validated that my coworkers, neutral third parties, saw the manipulation clearly. That night, my phone exploded with messages from extended family. But this time, they weren't all on Sarah's side. Cousin Mike. Dude, Sarah's freaking out in the family chat. She didn't expect your work to kick her out. She thought you'd fold under public pressure. Aunt Carol. Proud of you, that took courage. 3 other cousins texted privately. We've been there, we get it. Even Uncle Tom, who'd been a flying monkey before, sent a message. Maybe we've all been enabling Sarah too much. Aunt. The tide was shifting. Because when you're calm and consistent, and the other person escalates publicly, people start to see who's really the problem. Sarah's reaction was predictable. She posted on Facebook, a vague book about family betrayal and blood being thicker than water. 47 comments from people who didn't know the full story. I didn't respond, didn't engage, didn't defend myself publicly. I just kept living my life. And that restraint turned out to be the most powerful response of all. The next few weeks were quieter. The family seemed to be regrouping, figuring out their next move. I used that time to focus on myself. I got promoted at work, 15% raise. My boss cited my increased focus and confidence. I started dating someone I'd met at a coffee shop. Daniel. He was kind, respectful, and when I told him about my family situation, he said simply, "Boundaries are healthy. Anyone who punishes you for having them isn't safe." That sentence nearly made me cry, because it was so obvious, and yet it had taken me 35 years to hear it. I continued therapy, processing childhood patterns and building new neural pathways around self-worth. I joined a hiking group, made new friends, reconnected with old ones I'd neglected during my family-pleasing years. I was thriving, and that seemed to enrage my family more than anything, because the narrative they'd constructed, that I was selfish, that I'd regret my choice, that I'd come crawling back, wasn't coming true. Instead, I was happy, visibly, undeniably happy, and that threatened everything they believed about the family hierarchy. 3 months after the doorstep confrontation, I posted a picture on Instagram, me hiking with friends, genuinely smiling. Caption: grateful for people who respect boundaries. No tags, no explanations, just joy. That post got 230 likes, and 3 days later, I got a message from Cousin Mike that changed everything. You need to hear this. Chapter 5. Mike sent me screenshots from the family group chat, the one I'd been removed from months ago. What I saw made my stomach turn and my heart soar all at once. Mike had been quietly documenting everything, every manipulative conversation, every lie, every strategic planning session designed to break my boundaries, and he'd finally had enough. I can't be silent anymore, he'd written in the group chat. What we're doing to Jennifer is abuse, and I'm done pretending it's not. Then he posted evidence, screenshots of Sarah admitting she'd borrowed over $15,000 from me over 5 years with no intention of repaying it. Calendar screenshots showing Sarah planned the Florida trip 3 weeks before my departure, specifically because she knew I'd already booked a vacation and she wanted free childcare. Text messages where Sarah told Mom, "Jenny always gives in eventually. We just have to push harder." Messages where Mom agreed, "She's too soft, she'll come around." Screenshots from the Martinez family trip group, the one I wasn't in, where they explicitly discussed how to manipulate me into canceling my plans. Mike even shared his own story. Sarah did the same thing to me 2 years ago, made me cancel a job interview for a family emergency that turned out to be her wanting help moving furniture. I was too scared to say anything, but watching Jennifer set boundaries gave me courage to finally speak up. The group chat exploded. Some family members were shocked, others were defensive. A few were angry at Mike for airing dirty laundry. But several people, cousins, aunts, uncles, started sharing their own stories. Cousin Rachel. Sarah borrowed $3,000 from me last year and never paid it back either. Uncle Jim. I felt pressured to cancel plans for family obligations that turned out to be Sarah needing free labor. Aunt Carol returned to the chat after years away. This is exactly why I went no contact. The manipulation doesn't stop unless you stop participating. Sarah tried to defend herself. You're all ganging up on me. I'm a struggling single mother. You're married to Brian, Mike shot back. And you've gone on 4 vacations in 2 years, while Jennifer hasn't taken one until now. That's different. I have kids. Having kids doesn't entitle you to exploit your family, Aunt Carol wrote. The truth was out, and once it was visible, it couldn't be hidden again. Within 48 hours, Sarah deleted her Facebook account after friends started questioning her family betrayal post. Mom tried to smooth things over. This is all a misunderstanding, but nobody was buying it anymore. Dad finally spoke. In the group chat, not to me. Maybe we need to respect Jennifer's decision. 3 cousins reached out to me privately to apologize for being flying monkeys. 5 extended family members asked for advice on setting their own boundaries. Aunt Carol invited me to coffee. I want to tell you how I survived going no contact. You're going to need support. The most surprising message came from Uncle Tom, who'd been one of Dad's strongest allies. Jennifer, I owe you an apology. I've been watching this family operate on guilt and obligation for 40 years. You did something I never had the courage to do. Thank you. I sat in my apartment reading these messages, crying, not from sadness, from relief. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't selfish, I wasn't wrong. The truth had vindicated me in a way I never expected. But the real satisfaction wasn't in watching Sarah get exposed, it was in something deeper. I met with Dr. Chen 2 days later. How do you feel? She asked. Free, I said. For the first time in my life, I feel completely free. Tell me about that. I spent 35 years trying to earn their approval, trying to be good enough, helpful enough, selfless enough. And it was never enough. There was always one more demand, one more guilt trip, one more expectation. And now I know it was never about me not being enough. It was about them never being satisfied. I could have given everything, and it still wouldn't have been enough. Dr. Chen smiled. That's a profound realization. The satisfaction isn't in them being exposed, I continued. It's in knowing I can trust myself, that my instincts were right, that setting boundaries was the healthiest thing I've ever done. What about your family? Do you want to reconcile? I thought about that for a long time. Not unless they can genuinely apologize and change their behavior. And honestly, I don't think they will. Sarah's apology on Facebook was about managing her image, not taking real accountability. Mom's still calling it a misunderstanding. Dad's halfway there. but still hasn't actually talked to me. And you're okay with that? I'm more than okay with it, because I've realized something. I don't need their validation anymore. I have my own life, my own people, my own happiness, and it's better than anything they ever gave me. Over the next few weeks, life continued to improve. My relationship with Daniel deepened. We had honest conversations about family, boundaries, and what healthy relationships look like. He introduced me to his parents. They were warm, respectful, and actually interested in my life. I saw what functional family dynamics looked like for the first time. I got another promotion at work, senior marketing manager, 25% raise from my original salary. My career was finally thriving, without family drama draining my energy. I paid off my student loans, something I could never do before because I was constantly giving money to family emergencies. I started a blog about setting boundaries with toxic families. Within 3 months, I had 10,000 followers, hundreds of people sharing their own stories, finding validation and support. I ran my first 5-kilometer race, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. I adopted a rescue dog, Bailey, a golden retriever mix, who became my emotional support animal. I planned another vacation, this time to Hawaii 6 months out, with zero guilt. But the biggest change was internal. I stopped apologizing for existing. I stopped explaining my choices to people who wouldn't respect them anyway. I stopped trying to manage other people's emotions. I started trusting my own judgment. I started prioritizing my peace. I started building a life I actually wanted to live. And the people who couldn't respect that, they naturally filtered themselves out. Sarah eventually reached out, not through text, but through Aunt Carol. She wants to talk, Carol told me. She says she's sorry. Is she actually sorry, or is she sorry people found out? Honestly, I think she's sorry her strategy stopped working. Then I'm not interested. I don't blame you, but I wanted to give you the option. I appreciate that, but I'm not ready, and I might never be ready, and that's okay. Carol hugged me. That's more than okay. That's healthy. 6 months after the initial confrontation, I sat in my apartment, my beautiful, peaceful apartment, and took inventory of my life. Savings account, growing steadily without family loans draining it. Career, thriving without constant family emergencies interrupting. Relationship, healthy and respectful. Friendships, deeper and more authentic. Mental health, the best it had ever been. Physical health, better sleep, better energy, better overall wellness. Emotional health, I could feel joy without guilt, rest without anxiety, say no without panic. The satisfaction I felt wasn't about revenge, it was about reclamation. I'd reclaimed my time, my money, my energy, and most importantly, my sense of self. I was no longer the designated helper, the family ATM, the person everyone could count on to sacrifice herself. I was just Jennifer, a whole person with needs, desires, boundaries, and worth. And that person, she was flourishing. Chapter 6. On the 1-year anniversary of the doorstep confrontation, I made a decision, official no contact, not because I was angry, but because I was protecting my peace. I drafted a letter, reviewed it with Dr. Chen, edited it with Nora, and sent it via email and certified mail. Dear Mom, Dad, and Sarah, after a year of reflection and personal growth, I've made a difficult decision. Until there is genuine acknowledgement of the patterns that led to our estrangement, the financial exploitation, emotional manipulation, and boundary violations. I will not be resuming contact. This is not punishment. This is self-preservation. I wish you well, but I cannot sacrifice my well-being for your comfort. Respectfully, Jennifer. The responses were predictable. Sarah, angry texts I didn't read. Mom, voicemails about how hurt she was, deleted without listening. Dad, silence. But I also got unexpected responses. Mike, proud of you, I'm going low contact too. Aunt Carol, best decision you'll ever make. 3 cousins, can you help us do the same? And that's when I realized my boundary setting wasn't just healing me. It was giving others permission to heal too. I established clear protocols, communication, all family members blocked, except for one emergency line monitored by Mike, who would filter genuine emergencies from manipulation attempts. Social media, private accounts. Family couldn't see my posts, couldn't track my life, couldn't weaponize my joy. Physical safety, new apartment address not shared. Work notified to screen calls, neighbors briefed on potential family visits. Emotional safety, therapy every month, support group weekly, daily journaling, self-care non-negotiable, legal protection, cease and desist letter prepared, attorney on retainer, documentation system maintained. The first few months of official no contact were hard. Holidays were especially difficult. Thanksgiving, my first without family, I hosted Friendsgiving with Nora, Daniel, and 8 other people who'd become my chosen family. We ate, laughed, and shared gratitude without a single guilt trip. Christmas, I volunteered at a shelter in the morning, then spent the evening with Daniel's family. His mother hugged me and said, "Family is who shows up for you with love, not obligation." I cried. My birthday, the day that started this whole journey, I threw myself a party. 30 people showed up. People who respected my boundaries, celebrated my growth, and genuinely cared about my well-being. Sarah had once thrown me a surprise party where she invited people I barely knew and spent the whole time complaining about her life. This party was the opposite, intimate, authentic, joyful. But the real test came 9 months into no contact. I had a medical emergency. Appendicitis. Rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. My emergency contact was Nora, not family. But somehow, probably through the hospital grapevine, my parents found out. They showed up in the waiting room. A nurse came to my room. "Your parents are here. Do you want to see them?" I was groggy from anesthesia, vulnerable, in pain. Old Jennifer would have said yes, would have felt guilty for saying no, would have prioritized their feelings over her own safety. New Jennifer said, "No, please don't allow them in." The nurse nodded. "I'll let security know." 20 minutes later, she returned. They insisted on staying in the waiting room. "We've asked them to leave. If they don't, we'll call the police." "Thank you," I whispered. They eventually left, and I recovered surrounded by my chosen family, Nora, Daniel, Aunt Carol, Mike, and 3 close friends from work. People who showed up without conditions, without expectations, without guilt. That moment crystallized everything. Even in crisis, my boundaries held. Even when vulnerable, I chose safety over obligation. Even when it would have been easier to give in, I honored myself. That's when I knew I'd truly broken the cycle. A year into no contact, my life looked completely different. Career Director of Marketing. 40% raise from when this journey started. Speaking at national conferences, consulting business, generating $30,000 a year. Finances, $15,000 emergency fund, no debt. Investments growing. On track to buy my first house. Solo, no co-signers needed. Relationship, Daniel and I got engaged. He proposed on a hiking trip, just the two of us and Bailey. No family drama, no obligations, just love and choice. Health, ran a marathon. Lost the stress weight that had accumulated over years of family dysfunction. No more stress-induced health issues. Sleeping peacefully every night. Community, chosen family of 20 people who genuinely supported me. Online community of 50,000 people following my boundary-setting journey. Support group helping hundreds of toxic family survivors. Mental health graduated from weekly therapy to as needed. CPTSD symptoms reduced by 80%. Confidence at an all-time high. Peace as my default state. But the most profound change was internal. I no longer defined myself by my family's opinion. I no longer apologized for having needs. I no longer felt guilty for prioritizing my well-being. I no longer questioned whether I was good enough, because I finally understood I was always enough. They were just insatiable, and that wasn't my problem to solve. I started writing a book about my experience. From doormat to boundary queen, breaking free from toxic family patterns. A publisher offered me a deal. I was invited to speak at a psychology conference about family dynamics and boundary setting. My blog became a resource center for people trying to navigate no-contact decisions with their own families. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And I was helping others thrive too. One day I received a message from someone who'd been following my journey. Your story gave me courage to finally set boundaries with my mother. For the first time in 40 years, I feel like I can breathe. Thank you for showing me it's possible to choose myself without being a bad person. That message made me cry because it proved something I'd learned through this whole experience. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to walk away from toxicity. Sometimes breaking a cycle means breaking a family. Sometimes the bravest choice is closing a door, even on people who share your blood. And sometimes the only way to truly live is to stop sacrificing yourself for people who will never be satisfied. On the 2-year anniversary of that initial phone call, the one where Sarah expected me to cancel my vacation, I posted a photo on Instagram. Me on a beach in Hawaii, genuinely smiling. Daniel beside me, Bailey at our feet. Caption: 2 years ago, my family expected me to cancel my dream vacation to provide free childcare. I said no. They showed up at my doorstep. I held my boundary. They escalated. I went no contact. Today, I'm living the life I always deserved. And I have 0 regrets. That post got 50,000 likes and hundreds of comments from people sharing their own boundary-setting J.